get started.
Guess who's coming? Guess who's coming?
JDM Imported. And what's up, JDM friends? Welcome back to another episode of JDM Imported Podcast. I am your host, Dante Prinzo, owner-operator of Elusive Auto Company, and this elusive podcast that you might have thought went away multiple times pretty much between every episode, yet here I am, yet again, flowing through the microphone, trying to figure out a nice way to start this and just get into it, but you know what, that's not my style. You guys know. I try not to be well rehearsed. I'm sitting in the basement. I'm going to use basement loosely of my house. I mean, this place is exposed beams, electrical, plumbing, you name it. Plenty of thousand Lakers this time of year with all the moisture in Pittsburgh. So that's where I'm coming at you from. My the best I can do as far as a podcast studio. So let's get into it. I'm glad to be back, as I always am, or else I wouldn't come back. Like, quite honestly, and you know me, if I wasn't in the mood for this anymore, it is definitely not convenient. And you know what? At home tonight, kids are in bed, wife's working, so obviously the podcast, and we'll talk about this a little later in the episode, but, you know, there has to be a ranking system, right, of importance, a totem pole, if you will. And certain things are always going to be in front of this, regardless of how much fun I have doing this, how therapeutic it might be, how many gaps I'm kind of missing in my journey. Because that was another big thing with this is I want to document everything, And when I started this, what was I doing? I mean, when I started this, I was still recruiting. I was in Charlotte. Stopped recruiting, was bringing some cars in, had our driveway stacked with cars I imported because I had too many and not a dealer license. So then, had my oh shit moment, multiples. And then I was detailing cars in parking lots, try to get another kind of another support to the business because I knew I couldn't bring cars in, but I wanted to keep that going, and I just really didn't want to go back to recruiting by all means necessary. And I mean all means. I mean, I'm going to tell you some updates on the business, especially the detailing side in this episode, and it just warms my heart, and I feel like I'm not at all worthy because although I did have that struggle, of making peanuts, going from like a corporate job to cleaning cars in parking lots at 90-degree weather in Charlotte, just getting hammered. It was a blink, And for all those out you again that might be hesitating, you don't want to be uncomfortable, man. When things start to roll, when things start to click after getting dumping the puzzle straight out of the box and half of the pieces are turned over, you can't make out which end is what. You don't even know where to begin, and then all of a sudden you get that border put in, then all of a sudden you see the trees, then all of a sudden the picture starts to take shape, and all of a sudden, pieces are going in every 3 seconds instead of 30 minutes. And that's kind of how I feel right now. And you know what? I pat myself on the back. That analogy just came to me, and I think it works. I think it plays because that's how I feel. I feel like I was just moving pieces around, didn't even know what the picture looked like. I just knew I had to keep clicking pieces together. And now the picture's very clear. So, we'll get into some business updates. First off, then I want to dive in because I think it always correlates to all aspects of my business is my personal life because that needs to be straight for my business to work. Quick update on the Datsun. Now I'm going to have another episode of a Datsun update. I promised 10, and I just don't want to put stuff out just to put stuff out. And that's why you're not going to hear from me every week in this podcast because there's enough noise out there. I don't want to get too redundant. I want to actually have some updates for you. But I just want to plant a couple seeds, and then hopefully soon I'll do a Datsun episode, because there's actually a lot finally happening with that. Again, the puzzle's starting to take shape. And then we'll go through, since I'm in a new system tracking the Japanese cars, the Ninja system as opposed to Auto Trader Japan. I don't know if I ever put that out there, but anyways, was kind of the database that I use, that the dealer that I uses, and so now this new one is a little more exclusive because it's, you have to pay for an account, or at least the dealer does, to allocate those logins to various, stateside or whatever countries, various customers. It only has a certain allotment. So that's kind of a big deal. So I'm excited about that, because there's just way better information. I think I talked about that last episode too, but we're going to look through, some cars. We're going to see what's out there, talk about the market. And I know it's getting beat to death. If anyone follows anyone of any notability on YouTube that's in the enthusiast JDM world, it's been beat to death about the market. But let me just tell you real time, none of it's bullshit. It's all very straight up. As I tell anyone that asks for my advice on when they should buy something, the answer is always now, because they're just getting more expensive. But so we'll talk about the market, and then I'll wrap everything up at a pretty little bow at the end, and we'll move on with our lives. We'll probably do an hour. Depends on, I got to be honest. I gave myself a pretty healthy pour of. Well, actually, no, this wasn't scotch tonight. I am sipping on Lip Service, which is a rye from Tennessee. So let's get into business updates. Much to talk about here, friends. So let's dive in. I'll try to keep it. Well, it's not going to be concise, if you know me, if you've listened to more than one of these episodes, but I'll try to keep things cohesive-ish. With regards to the structure of my business, it's no surprise. It's no secret that, we're talking JDM cars. That's my passion. We need to be realistic in life if we want a successful business. And sometimes you just have to go the path of least resistance, or the path of margins, or the path of funding, or whatever it may be, so that you can continue to follow your dream. The detailing side has been outstanding, and that is really going to be one of the pillars moving forward. I know it, and I'm really ahead of schedule from some goals set out. So, I still have been consulting and bringing some cars in for people. Very few, but I have been doing that. So we'll start off with the JDM side. I do have another car coming in that I purchased. So this will be a car that's going to be brought in, retailed out once I go over it. I don't honestly think it's going to need much work. The body looks really nice. So we're talking, make sure that services are done, change all the fluids, check everything, brake pads, tires, wear items, make sure that somebody's getting a sorted, proper car that they can just enjoy and not have to worry about, taillights being out or whatever it may be. But that car is a 1993 Nissan Gloria. I'm sorry, did anyone get excited except for me? Maybe not. It's essentially, if you guys remember the Nissan Cedric I had, this is essentially the Nissan Cedric. Nissan wanted to have two models. One marketed more towards the executives, a little more refined. One marketed more towards, they say the younger generation, but realistically towards like maybe the new family man. Like one's a little more old-time executive, one a little more family man that like maybe had to sell his Silvia and now has to settle for this car, but could get it in like a turbo model and still kind of have some fun with it. So I got the Gloria. I've had the Cedric. We're going to have the Gloria now. This one is the Gran Turismo. So what that means is it is essentially the same, very minor differences, single turbo instead of twin turbo, but essentially the same engine that came in if you're listening stateside, our 300ZX Turbo. If you're listening abroad, the Fairlady Z, like early 90s. And so it comes with a really cool power plant, something that's, again, I think there's value to bringing these cars in. There's so many companies bringing in, again, all of our kind of origin cars, right? All of our hero cars. So there's enough of that out there. That's why, and I'm not trying to get into the obscure stuff and be like the AutoZam dealer of America, because again, that's a whole nother thing, and that market's all over the place and fluctuating. So I like to bring these cars in because I think these cars really fit a need, because this is for the enthusiasts that maybe don't have 30 grand cash. And let's keep in mind, like, no one's taking out at least good loans to buy any of these classic cars. And there's going to be plenty. Well, no, there's ways. There's always ways to do it. You can get personal loans. There's at least 5 that I know of, companies that specialize in funding for antique, classic, custom, kit, specialty vehicles. But none of them are, I mean, it's just not a smart money move, right? I mean, if you're paying, you figure if you get a more modern car, even a modern used car, and you're double, tripling, APR sometimes on these classic, shorter term loans, it's just not a good use of money. It isn't. I mean, it's better to get something cheap, put your money in the market if you have that lump. I mean, we could go down a whole separate path on that. But there's, as much as we see all these postings and there's a lot popping up locally, like, there's not a lot of people realistically that can just drop. I mean, really, for any of our hero cars, if you want like an FD, sure as hell, if you want a GTR, like, you better have 40 ready. And especially if we're talking like R33s, and like, you need a big chunk of cash, and it's not always the best thing to do to put a big chunk of cash on a car that you're probably not going to daily. So there's that need. And I think when I was younger, you want to get into something, and I think these kind of VIP cars or like Soarers, and even some maybe less desirable rally, Group B type cars. I mean, not the STIs, but, a WRX, because, again, we never had those stateside. We had the Subaru RS. It was NA. It looked cool. It looked the part, but it was a pig, What were they, 160 horsepower, all-wheel drive, light car, but still could barely get out of its own way. So there's a lot of fun cars to be had to keep it. And to me, I kind of feel like the sweet spot is like, let's keep it under 20. You know what I mean? Like mid-teens. So it really reaches a demo of people that are very enthusiastic, but maybe kind of early in their enthusiasm, if you will. Earlier in life, whatever it may be. Or, I've had plenty of people, similar situations as me. You have families, you might have set aside some fun money for a car, but I mean, you can't be spending more on your fun car than, your wife might on her Volvo, on a new Volvo. So let's be real. So anyways, again, I'm always going to give a little spice before I bring out the entree. I'm all about the details. But so the Gloria, really clean car, about 60 and some change thousand kilometers. So very low mileage on this one, and fairly stock. I think it might have some suspension work, a little lip. But really nothing major. And the main thing is this is kind of the last, like 93, 94. You're getting into the last years of that 33 body style, which I really like. It's because it's just boxy. We have the body colored quad projector looking lights, even though it's really too low, too high, but I love that look. I love that look. And some of the newer models that are definitely legal to import just don't do it for me as much, and are looking too much like, the Q45, Infiniti Q45, which, again, we had stateside. So to me, it's just kind of less special. And no knock against anything was replicated USDM. No knock at all. I mean, teach their own. Some people just really like, a right-hand drive version of what we could have had, just because, that makes anything feel special when you're on a different side of the car. But for me, bringing these cars in and just kind of my feedback and how they've been to sell, I think it's a good place to be. And then also when we're, if we're being completely clear, I think the margins, if I'm going to invest time and money into bringing a car over, curating it, making sure it's good for somebody to kind of save them that hassle, that anxiety, so they can pick it up with, ready to roll with a title, and it's going to be like buying a used Camry. If I'm going to offer that service, I need to make money, or else why else do it? When I break things down detailing wise, and it's like anything else. Sometimes you get ahead, sometimes you get behind. Some things you looked at, even if I look at a car beforehand, then I start with my paint correction. You find out that some panels are repainted. They're not correcting as easy. They're hazing. There's more steps involved. And you can't, whether I'm doing it the right way or not, I really try to be customer centric, and I don't want to be calling somebody, because I could pretty much every, especially big job, if we're doing corrections or PPF or coating, and I can always call somebody and say, ooh, something took longer. Because I'm not going to take an hour to walk around each car when it comes in. Like you go around, you kind of set expectations, you learn about the customer, and you go from there. And then there's always some surprises. Like we know, for those of you that have done any kind of modifications to cars, that simple cat back, in the backyard, I'm going to put it on, I'll bang it out before lunch, and then before you know it, stripped bolt, rusty clamp, hangers frozen, whatever it is, and all of a sudden it turns into like a one-day project, maybe longer if you have to order something because you broke it, or specialty part. I mean, we've all been there, and I'm not going to make... I always think of things as a service, and that's getting back to the JDM cars. I want to offer a good service. And with detailing, I want to offer a good service. I don't want it, like, people are coming to me as a luxury. You don't need a JDM car. You don't need to get your car detailed. You don't need to put film on your hood to prevent rock chips. You can just chip that shit up, deal with it later. But what's my purpose? The reason I'm here, the reason I'm doing this, is I felt like what I was doing for a living didn't give me any purpose. And I think that's why, and I've had some pushback on, either people that work with me or close to me, that they're like, yeah, man, you gotta charge people for that. Well, you know what? And again, sometimes I get ahead. Sometimes things are a little easier. And if they are easier, I'll do something a little extra for somebody, make it really worth it, make it really special. And then what I do, and this gets back to our margins, at the end of the day, I'm going to see how much I made, how many hours I worked, and I have a certain range I like to be in that I think makes sense. Before I pay anybody, before I buy products, I know that range is the growth range, that is worthwhile, that I'm doing things correctly, that quite frankly is at the upper edge of detailing, as far as expense. And not trying to be at the upper edge of cars, selling them, because I don't have a full service station. I'm not, I'm like compression testing, doing some basic stuff, but I'm not, unless something needs it, I'm not going to be going nuts with a car and like modifying it and then charging it up from there. That's just not my business model. Maybe down the road, that could be a fun thing. Someone orders a Gloria and then they want to, get some work wheels through me, since I have a distributor through it, and, they want to do a tune and they want to, a couple bolt-ons. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another way to kind of increase the margin and also offer value, because someone now can just pick their car up and it's just done, and they don't have to worry about finding the right person, some shade tree mechanic in their community. Like, they can just pick it up and it's good. Value costs money, but as long as I feel like I'm fulfilling that, I'm all good. So, and I think that's where these cars are really, that's where you can find that appropriate, well, appropriate's not a good word because it's all relative, but that's when you can find, I think, that less saturated market, and you're getting, your margins really aren't going to be much different than on the cars that you're really going to be tying up, twice the money for. You know what I mean? Because again, I always think, like, what can I be doing with that? If I buy something at $30,000 wholesale and I need to sell it, I need to mark it up more than $3,000. If I'm tying up $30,000, But then you also need to be competitive with the market because there's so many of those out there because you're not really offering as much of a special service. You're just giving someone another option, another gray R32. So that's why I'm kind of sticking. I mean, and again, the business will take me where it takes me. I'm just going to keep directing the water flow, but I'm not here to build dams, and cause erosion. So yeah, I think, but I think, I mean, at least for the time being, that's where I'm going to stay. And in the next phases, I can, I can replicate this a little easier. So the Gloria's, I think the Gloria will be a good situation. I mean, you figure after importing, after duty tax, customs clearance, shipping to pick it up, international shipping, all that stuff, I'll probably be in it like probably a little under 12, In fact, and I usually leave like, $500-800 in just miscellaneous for, if it needs tires or just, I mean, really you can spend that pretty quickly just doing all the fluids. I mean, and when I say all the fluids, I'm not saying like change the oil. I mean, the tranny fluid, checking the AC, obviously oil change, differential, checking ball joints, all that stuff. So yeah, factoring that in, it'll probably be close to 12, and I'll probably ask around 15, and I think that's fair, probably in the mid 15s, because realistically, I think, I mean, if you go to the dealership down the street, they're usually marking up cars at that price range, more than that. So I figure for all the time and effort it takes to like import a car, I mean, that's what I mean. Like the margins need to be decent to be worth, it's not the amount of money, it's how long your money has to be tied up for. Plus when it comes in, you still have to wait a month to get a title so you can sell it. So that's why I think that's really been contributing to these prices, because it's just, think about it. And we'll I'm going to get a little bit into the market just because we're talking about it now. It does kind of tie into the business update, but I mean, if you think about the prices now of cars, again, the hero cars that are continuing, we all see them, they're continuing to rise, they've not plateaued, and all that means is the margins have to rise too. So companies, dealers that are importing these cars, they're looking at these, and this is, I mean, from conversations I've had, people in it, it's, okay, like 5 years ago, the same car was costing me like $10,000 to $15,000 less than it is now, and we'll just use, the generic GTR. So now I have to spend an extra 10 to 15 grand for the same car that I would sell. So hence, unless, they're really big, and even the big places, for the same amount of money that we have for inventory, our inventory is now shrinking down, or it has to, just because we're spending more to get it. So how do you balance that? Well, you balance that by stretching the margins out a little bit so you can start keeping up with that supply and continue to show growth and bring in the volume. So it's just, and then because of that, because people are paying more for the retail, it's really stimulating the growth of people doing, maybe the route like that I offer, where they're coming to me to import their own car with a consultant, with a customs broker as well. And, it's a little bit of a hassle, but you can save a lot of money because these margins are starting to stretch out. And by no fault of any, like no one's trying to get over on anyone. This is just the price of business. Like this is just, they have to, I mean, it's like if you go to the sandwich shop down the street, the local sandwich shop, and the price of meat goes up, they have to charge more for their sandwiches. They're not going to maintain their same price there. And with cars, it's going to be even more because, again, it's not the amount even, it's the time. So now that extra 10 grand a car is getting still tied up for, you're not recouping it for at least 3 months by the time it's all said and done. And that's got to come from somewhere. So, and then I think that's stimulating. Like I said, more people are trying to do it on their own. So now you have more people bidding, just more, where it was really dealers, a couple oddballs here and there, but it's really people that just know what they're doing and have been doing it. And now everybody. I mean, it's it's a battle, and I'll tell you, that's a good chunk of the reason why I look at the cars I look at as well, because it's just not as fun. I get excited about something and you lose on 12 cars before you win at something, unless you're just willing to pay whatever, because you know that you're going to have a big margin. And in my situation, unless I'm doing 50 cars, I can't be that guy that's the most expensive, because again, I'm offering a very similar service if I'm getting the same type of cars. Like with detailing, like I can ask for more because I think I'm offering a better service than, Joe down the street. So I think I'm providing value for that service I'm offering. But if I'm doing the same thing, using the same chemicals as him and going through the same speed and volume focus instead of quality focus, then yeah, I'd be an idiot to ask for more. But it's a different service. So it's that way in the car game. So that's where I am with the business right now. The Gloria's coming in. Super excited about that. That's going to be fun. I'm just excited to get my hands on something I could take to Cars and Coffee and participate while the Datsun's getting built, because it's going to be a while. And I just miss being out there with, my people, networking and talking with other like-minded individuals. So the detailing side has really, man, in this last year, and I feel like a dick because, so many have been struggling, but COVID's been a really big growth year, for Elusive Auto. And, the shop space that I moved into, was it 2.5 years ago? Maybe not even. I think it was like 2 years ago. If you remember, if you follow me on social, I had that post where I was just, oh man, I couldn't contain myself. It was my first brick and mortar. And again, this was after, me mobile detailing to get some experience. And man, it went fast. And my first year was good here. And I didn't expect exponential growth over that first year. And then this next year has been just that. And nothing special has happened aside from me just being neurotic and wanting to give out, the best product that I can, within reason. I mean, there's definitely going to be days, when I'm just, especially now, I'm booked out 5 weeks at least, 6 if it's a bigger service. And I'm starting to fall into the trap, and I'm resisting it, and I always will resist it, because I realize that I have enough clarity that the reason I am this busy is because of the quality of work, and I can't shortcut that to get home in time or to keep my hours the same. I mean, they just can't. They have to get long at times. I have to go back at night, plenty of times. After the kids go to bed, and go in and put another 3-4 hours in. And that's just that's what I have to do. But again, since I'm really happy with what I do, it's not a chore, but it's definitely a struggle to balance with the family life for sure. So yeah, I mean that's and I haven't been advertising. It's really been word of mouth. So the exciting news is, and the other reason why I wanted to do this podcast tonight, is because I have a feeling in the next week or so, I'm probably going to hear back regarding a new building. So, kind of grew out of my, not kind of, see, like I'm trying to be modest, but I grew out of the shop space. So I have, one person working for me full time. So it's 2 of us in there. And I just, again, 5-6 weeks out, which is great. Like, honestly, I think that looks good. Like, if someone calls me for a coating or whatever, you don't want to go to the guy that's like, yeah, bring it in tomorrow. Because that means they had a full day, maybe a day and a half, not booked for tomorrow. That means they're not busy. Typically tells you what you need to know, right? Regardless of reviews. That's pretty telling of a business, especially this type of business. So, and I used to, I mean, when I was new in that building, I was like kind of embarrassed about that. I was like, if someone came, they had an afternoon appointment, I didn't have a morning appointment, and they came and there wasn't a car there, like it was kind of, I would skirt around it, you know. If they were like, "Oh, I'm at the first appointment of the day," I'd be like, "Yeah, I mean, I was just finishing some things up." Like, you know, one of those things when finishing things up means I'm like cleaning my floor, you know, or organizing some things. So yeah, that's a little misleading, but I was self-conscious about it, you know, because I know me as a customer. Like, I don't want to walk into this place of business and just like nothing's happening. You know, it's like when you go into that store and no one's there and there's like 5 people working there and they're just looking at you like you kind of want to just get out of there. So it's the bittersweet. I mean, so that's great, right? But it's also I'm losing business. Like just today, I had an appointment scheduled for a month for coating paint protection film on a truck. So fairly larger, you know, it's over $2,000 appointment that the guy canceled. You know, I have a 24-hour rule. I should extend it because he canceled it like 48 hours in advance. But and it's just because someone else could do it sooner. And I'm not going to get into like the courtesy of letting somebody know because that was weeks ago and I could have filled up that time. Even though I did, still, it's kind of a pain. But I digress. Yeah, so, you know, things like that happen, but it does bum me out to know that, like, yeah, so I miss that guy as a customer, and it's not just now. I mean, once you do a service like that, it's the next time, taking care of it, checking in, and with me, it's the referrals. Like, I get a lot of business referrals. Someone like that, I probably wouldn't, just because that seems like somebody that's just going to go wherever for anything, you know what I mean, and kind of forget where they went to, and it's whoever's available, whoever's close. But still, and but I just hate turning away like good clients. Like, I'm not saying like the new clients that call in. I'm talking about the ones that like they've been there 3 to 8 times, and then, hey man, can you fit in? You know, just got my, you know, picked up this new Mercedes, or it's like, oh, the car just got out of the shop, so I want to get it cleaned up, or oh, have a cars and coffee event. And it's like, oh, I can't. I'm overbooked. But then for the loyal customers, like, you have to stretch. And that's where you get caught in the trap of, you know, am I becoming a little too flexible on my granite rule, which is quality first, time second, always. You know, and I even tell people when they pick something up, like, do you have a deadline you need it by? And if they say no, then great. If they say yes, then I'll say, I'll do what I can, but I won't sacrifice, you know, the quality of the job. And they're always like, listen, if it, just let me know, it's fine. I'd rather be right. You know, as long as you're honest with people and upfront with them. But yeah, when you're trying to keep relationships going, then it's like, oh man, like, I'm already booked. And with the size of space that I have now, we can only do like 3 cars a day, because there's enough space for 2 cars in there at a time, but it's very tight to work on them, and so much time is lost kind of negotiating the room, right? Negotiating cords, hoses. I'm very, very critical about things being too close to cars. I don't like things rubbing, bumping, touching, anything, you know, because again, I wouldn't want to come in and see, you know, stuff dragging across like the door sill, you know, even if it's a hose for a compressor, you know what I mean? Like, I need that wrapped around a leg, held out, 2 hands, you know what I mean? No shortcuts with that. And it gets really slow when you're doing stuff like that because you need extra room and there's carts moving and there's not enough room for redundant equipment, so then it's sharing. So I can't hire another person, even though I'd love to increase the volume, because it's just, there's no space for it. And then someone comes to pick up their car, we need to move things around, and I do my, 15-minute spiel where we walk around to do a little video review, go over some things, some recommendations. I mean, that's all part of it. But while I'm doing that, if the car's in like kind of the showroomy area with a good light, we can't be kicking on loud machines and stuff. So then, Ted's usually sitting there like just trying to do something, but sometimes it just kind of kills the flow. And then when you have 3 cars coming in a day, or maybe 1 getting dropped off for the next day, we might have 4 cars in, or maybe 4 cars for service come in because it's like a scratch repair, a bunch of small things. it just gets really hectic, and there's really no way to like increase profitability in that it truly is limited by the space, which sucks because I love it. And it's the first brick and mortar I've been in with my business, and the community's been outstanding. Business owners sending people to me, the sub shop, hey, try out this sandwich. Here's a concoction, the guys from the bar hook it. Like, it's just such a good vibe, and it's so painful to walk from, but I'm going to. I have to, because again, my first concern is where Elusive Auto is going, and it's kind of like being in a class that all your friends are in, and it's really fun, but for an elective or for whatever, for a degree that you're going for, or to get something on a transcript, like it might make more sense to go into the one that's a little more challenging and less comfortable, but it's hard to leave, and it's kind of that way right now. So hard to leave, but I know I have to do it. I've been looking at buildings and found one, and offers in on it, so we'll see. And that's why I wanted to share with you guys tonight now, because I've never been one to just wait until things work out. So if it doesn't work out and I'm back on the market looking for places, then I'll let you know, and I'll let you know what happened. If they just couldn't come to terms, if the offer wasn't accepted, if there was a bidding war, like, I'll let you know what happened, and I'll also let you know, because I don't want any of you, and we've talked so much about startups, right? I mean, sometimes this podcast gets it into like a startup podcast, but I mean, listen, that's what I'm going through. That's what I can talk about. So, I think sometimes we get caught up in, like, again, the cover stories, right? The magazine covers, the 3-word titles, the headlines. We get caught up in that. We see friends, we see postings, we see vacations, we see promotions, and sometimes it doesn't tell the full story. So, yes, my business is going better than expected. I feel incredibly humbled, especially now that just like me by myself just did it. Just kept putting the pieces together, and it started to click, and I didn't shortcut anything. I didn't take out a loan to run massive Google ads so that no one sees anyone but me, and I have nothing to show for it. I just did the work. And yeah, the business is going really well. So I'm in a position where I can fill up a spot that is 3 times the size. It's going to be a lot of work. I need to the hardest part is going to be finding people, because again, what good is the big space? I can be more efficient. Ted and I can be more efficient. We could probably do a half or more, maybe 1 more vehicle a day, but what good's that going to do anyone? I don't want to be running and beating my head against the wall. I want to get in a position where I can continue to kind of curate this process that's replicable and teachable, so that I can focus on the things that I have expertise in, that I offer my maximum value in, which is the fine work, the paint correction, trim restoration, whatever. Like, that's what I'm good at. Like, I'm really good at that. So I want to be the expert at that, and I want someone else to be the expert in something else, and then other people that can just follow a process and clean cars the proper way. And that's going to be I anticipate this to be harder than starting. It's going to be like starting again, but I think it's necessary. And yeah, I mean, yeah, so full disclosure with the property, I was looking at doing everything myself. So I was looking at one that I could have done myself, right? I could come up with the money for the down payment, get a loan for the remainder, just like buying a house, right? And I looked into it, and it was all good, and I could get it done. And this was for a place that was probably, it was around $300,000, which would have been a stretch for me, super nerve-wracking, but I could have made it happen. Come to find out, it needs a lot of work. You're going to end up putting in more and more, and then it'd be loans to take care of like structural things. And And then I think my business would suffer. The other thing that has pushed me into what I'm about to get to is the fact that the commercial market's just a feeding frenzy. That's all people do that are in that world is buy buildings and lease them out. And some don't even really look at them, nor do they care. They just want to get as many as possible. They have the capital. They have funding groups, and we're talking groups. There could be 5 to 8 people in this group that have huge lines of credit that they can just pull on and just buy things essentially cash, because they pull from their line of credit, they write a check, they hand it over. No one has to deal with any contingencies. No one has to deal with a 30-day close, nothing. So that's what I was up against. So it was really hard to find the right place, and I wanted to stay local. So I was also seeing the writing on the wall there that this could take years, and what's going to happen? What's going to happen in those years, Is my business going to dwindle? Are people going to get sick of waiting? Like, people that have been loyal to me, like, listen, Dante, I love your work, but honestly, man, I just want to get my car detailed and I need to wait 2 months. Like, what are we doing here? Yeah, I'm just going to go, I got to go down the street, I'll hit you up when I need something else, but I can already feel that, and that, it pains me, because you work so hard to keep those relationships, and I don't get mad, because I would do the same. I'm not going to sit here and take it personally at all. But it's oh man, right now, I'm getting anxious thinking about it. I'm going to have another sip of my rye. Oh man, I didn't let that one settle. You should let it settle in your mouth a little bit. I just threw that back because I wanted to talk fast. That was real dumb. I didn't even enjoy it. That burn. It's a really smooth rye. Oh, it tickled the tonsils. So anyways, so I partnered up with somebody. I didn't really want to, but man, the best situation that I could have asked for. And it's a common thing. So I figure, okay, I'm a solution guy. This is a speed bump. I'm not going to turn it into a wall. So my speed bump is I'm competing against people that I can't really compete against, and I'm going to have to settle for a property that I'll have to stretch for, and it's not what I actually want. So what's my solution? Partner up. So I'm partnering up with someone that wants really nothing to do with the direction of my business, but we're going to work up, or we already have, a situation where he has the capital, right? He can make a very quick move on the building. And this other building that we're looking at, that we have an offer in, is more than I would have spent or could have. And we can just, cut a check. So can go to the front of the line. And then what we're going to work out is essentially a percentage of the business up until a certain percentage of ownership of the building, because I want to own part of the building. I don't need to own all of it, but I do want to have some vested ownership in that. So we've devised a way that, essentially, I'm not going to totally divulge everything, because quite frankly, I don't really know everything. We're working through it, but it's somebody that, again, doesn't want any say in the business, and that was one of my biggest prerequisites is, great, I will share revenue, in order to essentially pay for this building in lieu of rent. So that's kind of a different way to do things. And I like that too, because it allows me a little more flexibility, because now very low overhead, very agile situation, so that I can not be scraping to get the building to a place that I want. I can make it look proper while also maintaining the quality of work and, spending money to hire some people to do things as opposed to doing them myself, because then I look at it all goes into that same funnel. I'm putting out a different product if I'm stretching myself, and I am overstretched with time, always. So now I have a little more, you know what? Maybe I don't need to come in with a sledgehammer and demo the entryway. Maybe I'll hire somebody to do it because I can, and now I can focus on how am I going to fill that place up with cars, And that's going to pay for that guy, and then that's also going to pay for, start paying for the building. So it's the best situation I can ask for, and sometimes you have to put your ego aside because it was an ego thing, you know. I've always kind of struggled with like what I like doing in life and work and self-worth with stuff like that. Like I've been confident socially, but with work, not so much. Even when things were going well, I just didn't feel like I was providing much value, you know, like that's why I didn't like recruiting. I just, you know, and I did that for 12 years, you know, and when you get paid for that and you feel like you didn't do enough to earn that, you're like, yeah, ugh. It just made me feel itchy. Whereas now, you know, I feel like I'm actually providing value and I will gladly accept the money. I will take the monies. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, we've worked things out with ourselves. The offer is in, and I will let you know how it goes. I'm trying not to be excited. I was maybe on a couple websites for lighting and looking at some hex grids and some specialty lighting, but and I may or may not have purchased some. I mean, come on, it's a Memorial Day sale. If I don't use it for that place, I'll use it for my own or something else. So whatever. But yeah, that could really be. That'll be huge. And also, that ties it all together. Because I don't want to make this a detailing podcast, but we're just going to be real with everything. It's going to be like essentially 6 bays, but I'm probably going to convert it to 4 because I'd rather have 4 big ones than like fit 6 cars in there. But there's parking for over 30 cars. So this is when I close my eyes and fantasize in like 2017. When I closed my eyes and fantasized about what this would be, that's what I pictured. A building that stood on its own on a little piece of land, not attached to anything, not in a strip mall, just a building there, and enough parking to blast out an invite and have like a cars and coffee, an open house, a meet the whoever, a demo day, whenever I wanted. No approvals from the municipality, money for permits, just do whatever I want. You know, I mean, and that's why, even though it would be much easier, I could have went and leased a place in weeks and been gone. As soon as I was like, you know what, this is too much. This place isn't working. I could have bounced, and I would have just kept the place. Which I'm still going to keep the place close to the house, the current location. I'm going to keep it forever. It's just going to be amazing storage. Who knows? I can probably run some things. My goal is like enough revenue that pays for it. That's a win, you know, even if I'm cutting vinyl out of it or something with a plotter. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think that's what I'm most excited for is this parking lot. So, you know, when I picture events and I picture, you know, the Gloria, when it comes in, it's going to be parked out. The Datsun's going to be out there. You know, this place has a bunch of 6 garage doors, you know. Probably not going to buy all 6, but maybe the first 2, at least to start with, glass, so you can see straight in and have something parked there at all times. I mean, to me, that's more interesting than a bright sign, even though I'll have one of those too. But you know, have something cool parked out front, and then I will also, again, since things are going to be, you know, low overhead, I'm going to have a little more flexibility to bring some cars in, and because I can bring as many as I want, because this is going to be a building that can be approved for a dealer's license very easily. It has the parking spaces, it has the office space, and it is not connected to anything. Those are the 3 main things that you need in Pennsylvania. And then you can sell more than, you know, 6 cars in a year, which some collectors do more than that regularly. So let's be real. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I hope it happens. Take another sip on that note. Yeah, you hear that? Taking a little air in. Oh, that was proper. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. So, kind of got off on the outline here. I outline every episode because we started talking about the market and how the market's just haywire for our hero cars, and hence why I don't look at them that much. So I'm going to pull up Ninja here. So Ninja is the database. So that's it. I'm going to close the chapter. I'm done talking about the business. Let's move on to JDM car stuff. Because I can, honestly, I'm looking right now. We're 15 minutes in. I still have some things I want to go over. And I could just sit here. there's so much more I want to talk about, but I value your time as I do mine. So we just came out, let's see, a couple weeks ago was Golden Week, which everything's closed in Japan. So now things are opening up, but there's always a bit of like a lull this time of year. And I'll let you in as to why there's that lull. So Golden Week's over, then Golden Week's over. This time of year is when a lot of manufacturers are shipping cars. And what that means is they all ship Ro-Ro. No, they don't ship in containers, they ship Ro-Ro, which is where, unless you're just trying to light money on fire, you're importing a car Ro-Ro, not in a container. And they're going to take precedent, because Mercedes is going to ship over, 300 cars that's taking the Hogue ship that usually stops at Osaka to pick up the cars. So now instead of slots for 60, there's slots for like 15 cars. And it's not like they're sending more ships, so there's just less allocation for those Japanese cars. So, and because of that, less are being able to export. For a while, there's a huge backlog and big issues there with cars sitting at port too long. And then people, because listen, the laws don't change. If they have like a 10-day law or a rule 10 days after it's there, if it's not, on a boat or it's not scheduled, whatever it may be, you start paying fees. That doesn't change just because there's no room on the ships. So, these are the things, and I know I've talked about this in past episodes with Border Patrol, with like exporting, just dealing with shipping companies. Like, when things change, the weather affects things, like, that's no one's problem. The rules are the rules. There's zero gray area, so not their fault that Mercedes is shipping, 300 and there's only 15 slots and, 80 people bought a car in Japan that week. You're just going to have to wait until, first or 78th in line. You just have to wait until your number's called at the deli. Then you can step up to the counter. But until then, you're going to be paying tax. You're going to be paying little ducats for sitting on the bench, taking up space. So that's where they're at. And things are a little slow because of that. This is actually, I think sometimes in our minds, it's like, oh, it's go time. It's summertime. Summertime's actually not the best time to buy a car because of all of this, because it's halfway through the year. So the 2022 model years, a lot of stuff is just getting imported into the States from new manufacturers overseas, and they are taking up all the ships, So, for instance, right now, I just opened up Mazda. I'm scrolling through. RX-7s, there's usually a good amount. 4. There's 4 shown at auction. And this is a good time to look. So this is a Tuesday night, Tuesday US, it's Wednesday over there. Thursday's their big auction day. So usually everything that's going to auction Thursday is going to be posted by tonight. And we have 4. 4 FDs. Not even an FC, just 4 FDs. That's it. And of those 4, what do we have? A 3 grade. Ooh, a Type RZ. So do yourselves a favor. If you want to just kind of nerd out on FDs, and I've always been a big fan. Like, one day I'll own one for myself. I know that. But there are so many varieties in Japan. Like, it's not like we had a turbo, non-turbo, tuned, non-tuned, something that was sporty, something that was 50 pounds lighter. We didn't have any of that. We just had like an automatic or a manual in the States, and that's it. But there's the RB Broadhurst, there's the Type R Broadhurst S, there's the there's the Enos ones, there's the Fini, the Savannahs, the Type Rs, the Type RZs. I know I'm missing some things and probably butchering some things, but just go on Wikipedia and you'd be shocked how many different varieties there are of FDs in Japan. When you really look them up, I don't have the list in front of me. There's one time I took some notes on them for a customer, but like the difference between the Type RB, Butthurst and Butthurt, we'll call it, and the Type R, Butthurt, is like nothing. It's like they both have tuned suspension, but one's like a different spring rate, or one has a different cat back from the factory we're talking, or like one doesn't have a spare tire. It's like little stuff like that, like between a Type RZ and a Type R. It's like 50 pounds. Like something has like 50 pounds of something taken out of it. It's cool because it makes things feel special. But it's also like, how do you follow? But anyway, so yeah, and Man, so FDs. So just to give you an idea, I bought one that needed repainted, but it didn't need much else. The FD that I had, and I bought that for about 13 and some change at the auction when it was shipped here. And I put, and then I did the paint work and all that stuff. I was probably into it for like high 16s, and I sold it for 20. Which, with the amount of time, that one I wouldn't actually say is a success because I put a lot of time because I got the paint work done, but it wasn't very expensive paint, so they didn't refinish it. So I'm the one that's, wet sanding it, compound polishing it. So I probably had 16 hours of work just there. And then, doing some reconditioning on the inside. Like the total on that car, I probably put over 40 hours into it. Which is a full work week. So then when you're looking into like how much you made on something in hourly, it's not that great considering the money that you tie up in things. So again, that's why I like to share these things, because if you guys are looking into this stuff, like you need to be realistic and you need to set expectations so that this is something you can structure your life around, so that you're not relying on this to make you too much money. You're relying on this to build something. Yes, you get money back. I mean, it's not nothing, but you have to value your time too. And if you're working a 9 to 5, you really kind of have to sit down, Benjamin Franklin that shit, and just, make your list and really be clear with what's happening and what you're getting back in the value of your time. So yeah, I mean, let's pull up some other cars here. And as far as ducats, they are going for, so right, and this is auction prices, so we're not considering export fees, auction fees, and shipping, domestically and internationally. It's hard to get one for under 20. You're not getting a very nice one. I bet this starting at 500. So I bet this one that's a 3, it's a 3D, so the interior is not good, the exterior is not good. That might be one that goes for a little under 20. Like probably, I'm guessing like 1.9 and some change million yen, so maybe like 18 grand, maybe 2 million yen, so 19-ish. But yeah, any of these ones like this 4 grade, it's starting at 880. Something starts like that, it's probably going to go for like 23. I would guess. I missed on one that went for similar with low mileage like that, so 23, 24. So you're saying this is something once you see stateside, it's absolutely going to have to be over around 30. It's going to have to be around 30. And this is kind of a run-of-the-mill one. If there's anything special, super low mileage, really good condition with some bits on it, and this is for FDs. Like FDs weren't going for this money. Again, the one I sold was really low mileage, sorted. I just put fresh paint on it. Someone bought it retail for me after all of that for 20, and now you're getting things, and this is if you just buy it and bring it in your, so that's where we're at with those. Just to let you know too, AutoZams are the same thing. AutoZams are like getting about 20 if you're, looking for those retail, because they're like upper teens, mid-teens used. And they used to be like, oh man, you can get them for like 1 million yen, maybe. So let's pull up some other stuff. Let's pull up, okay guys. So Hondas. Hondas are pretty light. So of course the Type R's have been popping up, and I'm kind of excited about that because, we didn't have many, well, of course, I didn't put the year in now, so I have 2018 NSXs. Oh, man, are those pretty. Here's, 2018 NSX, 6,000 kilometers, pretty much brand new. Auction starts at 14.5 mil. Best of luck. All right, so let's see here. So let me filter. So I'm just doing Honda Coupe. I'm not going to put in a specific model. Sometimes this is a fun way to search, and I'll just put a max year of 96, because that is the max year of anything that we can import here in the States. So all Hondas, this is all Hondas that are coupes, that aren't four-door. So, I mean, there's four-door Integras, things like that. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 10 total going this Thursday. That is really light. Really light. And the problem, too, with Type Rs, there's a lot more available. There's 2 96s right here. One is an early 96, so you can get it in here. Well, early and mid, yeah. But none of them are good. One's, engine issue marked on this one. And the other has 252,000 kilometers. So it's really, I think too, because I've had some people reach out to me for Type Rs. When we think Type Rs here are, if they're around still, they're typically mint. And they're going to be high dollar. Type Rs there are just kind of like tuner cars. They're like the equivalent of like what an SI was here, right? So you see a lot of them with just really gross mods. It's kind of hard to find that clean champion white with like Mugen wheels and that's not all gutted up. I mean, like there's one here, it looks kind of nice. It just has like the stock body, but the hood is burnt out. It has some curved up wheels and it doesn't have a carpet in it. It has a stupid flat bottom wheel and Skyline seats that are stretched out. Like just weird, you know what I mean? Like weird stuff. Which is disappointing because I really thought the Type Rs, I'm like, oh man, we'll be able to clean up and just keep getting Type Rs in here. We'll see more on the streets because they're just so rare to see. And I've never been a Honda guy myself, but really enjoy seeing them out there. And the NSX is, maybe 3-4 years ago had a nice dip, at least in the Japanese market, and they're back up. So we're back to where we were. We're past where we were. 3.5 grade automatic is starting at 33.7 mil. Whenever something's starting that high, it's probably going to go for in the high 4 mils. Well, probably over 5. So you're probably still going to be around 50 grand for an automatic, 3.5 grade. And then you have a 4 grade here, and this is the disparity here. A manual. All right, this is a fun example. Nagoya. We have 2 NSXs going. One automatic, 61,000 kilometers, 3.5 grade, starts at 3.7 mil. Expect that to go to like 5. So high 40s, low 50s. 1991, 5-speed, 56,000 kilometers, half a point higher in its auction grade, starting at 8 million yen. So like, what's that? High-ish 70,000s. So that'll probably go for close to 90. I mean, just the difference between automatic and manual. So for a 91, and I love these things, but they're just, just people. I mean, because again, let's remind ourselves, people like these cars all over the world. All over the world. So this one has like the 2002 conversion, front end conversion. Which I'm not a huge fan of, but yeah. And then the other cars, we don't need to go through what's going on with the Skylines, things like that. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I think the VIP cars have been very consistent. They've gone up, but they've gone up like maybe $2,000-$3,000 over the last couple years. So it hasn't been as crazy. I mean, some not even that much, but and same with same with Silvias. Silvias they've increased, but not super noticeable. Not like, oh, I wish I. They're not an I wish I car. They're like, whatever, okay, I'll get around to it if that's like my dream car is to get an S14 or something. So yeah, if you guys are looking for stuff like that, chill out. You'll be fine. If you're looking for the heritage cars, if you're looking for the classics, so I didn't even get into the Celicas, the classic Celicas, the classic market's going, Fairladies, the Hakos, of course, forget about it. They've always been high, but even more so now. Even stuff like classic Cosmos. So, if you're familiar with the early 90s Cosmos, made popular by the 3-rotor motor that, people do swaps and FDs with. Grand Touring car, really cool car, ahead of its time. Love to have one of those too. But the classic version of that has really gone up in price. So you're seeing just a big spike across the board. The best, really the most even keel have been the kind of beat up rally cars because they've been consistently, they're not cheap, but they've been kind of consistent for the last couple years. And but I say beat up because like the majority are pretty beat. You're gonna have to put some work into them. Sylvia's have been fairly consistent. Enos roasters, some Miatas. A lot of people are still importing those. I think just because they're, sometimes you see that with USDM cars that are just, it's hard to find clean versions, clean examples. And like I said, the anything that's kind of four-door sedan, the President, Celsior, you name it. And yeah, the Cedric, the Gloria, the Sephiros haven't been popular for a little while. I've always liked them, but they've very much plateaued. I don't think they've really increased in price from what I've seen. I think that's it. I mean, of things to note. But yeah, I mean, as always, questions about that stuff, let me know. To leave things on a always leave things on a high note. But I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks for all the questions, all the emails, even the emails, like I get plenty of them, like, where you been, in the DMs. You're never pestering with me with that. If anything, it's just kind of like a kick in the ass to be like, you know what, let me just like crawl down into my hole of a basement, throw a microphone in my face and just start chatting. I mean, how hard was this? This is not hard. Take an hour for myself at night, have a nice glass of rye here, chatting up with you guys. Like, I mean, it's funny. I feel like I'm having a conversation, but I'm really just talking to myself. I mean, just, man, I'm really stressed right now, but just extremely happy. I'm trying to wade through the waters of kind of managing. Obviously the number one thing always has to be in the front of my mind is always my marriage, because without that, the family's going to suffer. Without the family, I'm going to suffer and just be nothing. And this is a huge burden on everyone. And I even hear it from my kids, like they make, like when I'm home late, like my 8-year-old's like, Daddy, like, what happened to 6:30? I'm like, oh, dude, come on. Like, I've been flying today to try to get you. But they're very finite, Kids are finite, spouses are finite. Like, you say something, you do it. And if you don't do it, it's like, I don't want to hear it. And I'm like, what am I going to sit there and get defensive? Like, yeah, that's very black and white. And there's always going to be something. There's always somebody that walks in when I'm leaving. There's always something that took longer than it was supposed to. And it's just, how do you manage that? You don't. There's no good way to manage it. You just mitigate it at best, and set expectations. And what's been hard for me is telling my wife, when are you going to be home? Like, I'll try to be home at like, whatever time, 7, but no promises. Like, start dinner without me. And it sucks. Like, I hate missing it, but I also don't want, it's worse when it's like you try to rush there and they're waiting for you and you're late, because then you're late. If you don't give it time, you're not late. That's a hack right there for the chronologically inclined. But I just so it's I'm always just going through those emotions of being really stressed about managing that, and also not letting that affect the thing that's causing all the pressure. That can't affect the business because the business is causing all this. It's silly, but I mean, it's kind of true. And then I can't help but just like, I'm jumping out of my skin thinking about a new place, even though I know it's going to be multiple uppercuts to the chin. It's going to be so hard, but it just, when I closed my eyes and thought about this, that's what I pictured. That's it. It was clear as day. And then when it is actually reality, I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. So, man, I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, if you want something, go get it, because I've talked about it before. You got to be good at it, and you have to be willing to hold your breath for a while. If you're not willing to do those things, you don't have this talent, then just recognize that and do what makes sense, Fortunately, I was in a position where I could build some skills and offer value to people. And it's been working out. And it's, again, like I feel like I should have struggled for like 5 years, because I see other people starting businesses struggling. And I mean, it's part of me. Some days I'm like, I don't feel worthy. And then other days I feel like, you're damn right, I hated what I did for 13 years, damn right I should enjoy it, but it is what it is. I would just, if anyone has questions, again, like I've gotten emails from younger people, older people making lifestyle changes. It's good to connect with people because it's not all easy, and it's not all just like put your head down and make it happen. There's a lot of stuff that's outside of the business you're trying to grow that greatly influence it and influence you, and these are all things that you have to manage that don't add to the bottom line, that aren't tangible, that aren't a margin, I live outside the margins. I mean, really, that's what it is, managing everything, managing at home and relationships at work to grow work. I mean, it's, on so many layers. And, but it's just been, I think it's something that if you feel like you have a high tolerance, but it's like, I said with JDM cars, Hero cars, if you want one and you can afford it, do it now. Don't wait. It's kind of like that with, changes in life, right? Think about this too. I'll be curious. I mean, you don't even have to like get back to me or whatever. Just think about this. How many things have you regretted starting too fast or too soon? How many things have you regretted not starting sooner or not starting or not doing or thinking too much about and then someone else did it? Or thinking too much about it and then something happened in your life that made it so you couldn't do it. To me, I mean, personally, anything that I look back on that's kind of a stain on my record has been because I overthought it. Has been because I was worried about being comfortable. I mean, that 13 years was all about me being comfortable. And now all of a sudden it makes me uncomfortable to even think about that. It's like stretching. At first it hurts and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can touch my toes now. This is normal. And it was like that way with this. So, whether that helps or not, I'm not trying to sit here and be Dr. Phil anybody, but just kind of sharing things that I went through, things that I'm still going through. It's constant evolution. It's constant, the stretching analogy is always true because you can always stretch more. It's always uncomfortable at first, then you get used to it. And then you can do another move. Then it hurts, and then you get used to it. And if that's not you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Just be happy with what you do. Find something that makes you happy. Don't keep looking over the fence. Sometimes over the fence isn't that great. I still, to this day, I mean, comes up conversation with friends quite often that, wish they could or wanted to or, and it's just... It's probably not best for you, If you've been thinking about it for this long and trying to talk yourself out of it and haven't taken that leap of faith, then just be happy with what you have, man. There's beauty in simplicity. My life's not simple at all. Really, I think for a lot of people, they would hate it. So regardless of me sitting here and be like, oh man, things are going great this year. I'm hitting all my marks. I'm hitting my goals. I'm buying a new building. Like, that's really exciting for me, but it's like, it sucks too, And I think for some, like, it might be their hell. It might be their living hell. And you just have to be realistic with who you are, I lied to myself for years with who I was and wasted a lot of time. So, anyways, I don't know what the hell that was, but we're done with it. That was glass too. That's what that was. Hefty pours, boys. Hefty pours tonight. So, as always, thank you. Shortly, and by shortly I mean next week or next month, I'll have episode 2, the number 2 of 10 for the Datsun. That'll be fun. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that because it'll just be kind of a light fun. It'll probably be 30 minutes about me just talking about car parts and me, licking wheels that came fresh from Japan, but I'm not going to tell you yet. But as always, I'm here. Questions, comments, hate, love, send it my way. It's all good. So Dante, Dante, at elusiveautoco.com. If you're the emailing type, if you're down with the DMs, at elusiveautoco on all social, and at elusiveautoshine for the detailing, which could be interesting to you. You know, I like to post some videos, a couple things. You know, I haven't, I would need someone to follow me around to get into the whole YouTube thing, but it's not really my cup of tea right now. We'll just keep it to short, concise, postings here and there. But yeah, I mean, questions about that. Obviously, if you're interested in importing a car, reach out. If it's not through me, I can at least help point you in the right direction. At least kind of set expectations and see if it makes sense for you, if it's something you're into and even want to go down that road. I've gotten pretty good at those conversations and can usually get there in 5 or 10 minutes, and you'll walk away feeling like, hey, I'm ready for this, or man, am I glad I didn't start that shit. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me about that. And yeah, as always, enjoy the drive. Peace.